So, you can show up as your most grounded, energized self in work and in life. It is possible. However, hidden stress and old belief patterns impact our ability to focus, to lead, and to follow through. And working with the nervous system can shift everything. The founder of Bodywise Wellness and the creator of the WISE, WISE method, a body first approach to stress relief, nervous system healing, and belief transformation, is with us on this interview. Let's go to Nicole Hope Sylvester. Hello, 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 world. Welcome to another episode of the Millionaire by Morning podcast with your host, Rashad Thirlkill. We have a guest with us today that will be speaking about our favorite subject, which is stress. Stress. We all go through it. We all know about it. She can tell us a little bit about it. She's an expert when it comes to it, the nervous system. We're going to speak about that, and she can shed some light on what it is to feel anxiety, to feel stress. We have with us Nicole Hope Sylvester. I want to welcome you to the show today. This is a very important topic for entrepreneurs and visionaries, and it's something that you can speak on, know a whole lot about. So, welcome, Nicole, to the Millionaire by Morning podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. And you are coming live from California, correct?
Yes, it is beautiful and sunny today on the windy, but definitely beautiful and sunny.
Awesome. One of those days. Well, we're
Mm-hmm.
definitely glad to have you. I like to kind of jump right into it. You are the owner of Bodywise Wellness. And if I can, I would like to shed some light on you by reading your mission statement.
Yes,
And it
please.
reads, my mission is to guide people in understanding that the most important relationship they will ever have is with themselves. This relationship begins with honoring the body, our most essential companion in this life. By cultivating a deep connection with our physical selves, we unlock the ability to live with more ease, joy, and purpose. When we honor and care for our bodies, we build the foundation for all other relationships and experiences in life to flourish. And if I had a round of applause button, I would press it over and over again.
Thank you. That's a
Right?
big
Because
deal.
that's an amazing mission statement. And for us, beings, human beings that's here on this earth who, just trying to figure it out. That's an awesome mission statement for someone to help other people out
Thank you. It is.
with that.
I love that you said human beings because I think we kind of forget that and become like technical beings or work beings or mom and dad beings. I don't know. So many different things besides being human. And that's why my work does focus on coming back to the human part of it, which is the physical body.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. First of all, let's go back. Where did this where did this I guess business derive from, or what gave you the motivation and the desire to kind of want to help people in this avenue?
Well, that is a great question. And my origin story, if you will, is that I had a lot of stress earlier on in life, but didn't recognize it. And then at some point, I was actually a first grade teacher for 10 years, which is also stressful, but didn't realize it. And then after having children, I was actually teaching fitness classes to adults. and got more stress because, just as a quick first line note for anyone paying attention, trying to take away anything from this, stress, whether it's from a workout, or stress, whether it's mental stress from doing so much work, the body still is kind of accumulating it. So I'd kind of went into having stress, then had my children, which I love and adore, but that, when they're little, they require a lot of energy and worry, if you will. And then on top of that, I was doing a lot of teaching, a lot of fitness and morning boot camps, and that was also adding stress to my physical body, until my body was just kind of, well, giving up would probably be the accurate word. My body was telling me and yelling at me in a lot of different ways that I wasn't really paying attention to, aside from having it add more worry, right? Like, I was having blurry vision, my jaw was hurting, I couldn't swallow. Um, there were times when I would get up or take the kids to do something, and at some point I could hardly walk. And I thought that was just, all of that was perpetuating my belief that clearly something was really severely wrong with me. And then that worry added more stress. So it's this nice little compound, right? The body is doing things and the mind's reading it and getting more stressed about it. And then in trying to balance work and raising my kids, I pretty much went into a really severe depression. And when you're in depression, then that feels very much like a mind thing. And I felt very disassociated from my physical body, to the point where in the morning I would wake up and feel so, I'm trying to find, I felt so uncomfortable in my body that I would have these visions of being able to unzip myself and step out of my physical self, and then be like, oh, and like feel relief and be a different person, and have, even though it wasn't about my kids specific or my external life, but we are taught most of our lives to assume that when something's wrong that we're feeling inside, it's because of something external, right? So I was going to unzip myself and go figure out how to feel better. So that was really, that depression and anxiety and stress really started to pick up, and physiologically as well as mentally. So I would kind of just try to drag myself out of bed in the morning. I think people can identify with this. Drag myself out of bed, make sure that I checked all the boxes to be sure that all the people that were relying on me were taken care of. And then I would just kind of get to the next time I could either sit down, go back to bed, take a nap. I mean, I was just essentially trying to get from nap to sleep. And finally, the big wake up call for me was, I had the kids in the car and I was bringing my daughter home from preschool, and I actually fell asleep at a stoplight. And that's pretty creepy. I'm grateful I wasn't actually in a moving vehicle at the time, but to fall asleep at a stoplight with your two kids in the car is a pretty big heads up that something that you're doing isn't working. And that really drove me to start figuring out what was wrong. And that's kind of pushed me into a bunch of different modalities of health and wellness to figure out what's going on. So I did all of the kind of basic Western medicine techniques and had tests done, and even every kind of test that you could check to make sure I was okay. And for the most part, I was. And then I saw a functional medicine doctor, and I went to an acupuncturist. I had a couple different therapists, and all to really not get me much progress. And I feel like there are a lot of people these days who have these issues, and the body is manifesting, it's manifesting the stress, like symbols of stress, ripples of sensations and emotions and physical discomfort, representing the stress that we're holding inside. And finally, I actually saw a spiritual counselor who did energy work on me. And she actually was the first person to give me some actual calm and quiet in the body, which I thought was fascinating because that wasn't in my wheelhouse at all. And feeling that relief in my body, like peace would be the best word, just inner peace in my body and quiet in my mind was so massive. It had been years since I had been able to experience that. And I worked with her for a number of years and finally stumbled on the fact that that was great too, but it wasn't, that seemed still more mindy, and I still had to have someone outside of me doing work on me to get me to a calm space. And finally, that led me to understanding that I needed to get my physical body, my nervous system, to be calm and quiet. And then all of these nuanced sensations and the depression and the anxiety started to go away. And from that space, I had a lot more clarity about what I needed to do next, and a lot more what is referred to as an adaptive reservoir. So when life gets chaotic or crazy or challenging, your nervous system has space to be able to manage it. That's what people are talking about in a level of response as opposed to reaction. And my work, fortunately, in being in fitness, really made a huge difference for me, because I realized that as I was doing yoga and as I was doing dance and slowly moving back into a movement space, walking, my body would be calm. And as my body was calmer, my anxiety died down. And as my body was calmer, I wasn't as depressed. And that led me to do trainings and certifications around understanding the physical body, that somatic space, understanding the nervous system, as well as moving into what's the mindset component with it. Where are those two things related? And because as a society, we tend to focus mostly on mindset. Something's wrong. I have to mindset my way back out of it, push through it, or hyper think about it. And ultimately, if your body's become that overwhelmed by stress and emotions and overwork, etc., your brain can't be utilized in that capacity. So as I quieted the body, I had more opportunity to think about things in a different perspective, and realize that a majority of my stress was me pushing through to do things for reasons that weren't actually my own, like adopted beliefs and adopted approaches and expectations. And then, so the big deal was, we think that we're going to heal through our mind, and then the body gets behind it. And there's a piece of that that's true. But in the mind body relationship, 80% of the information that moves through this system is from the body up to the mind. And then the mind is that 20% connecting back down to the body, which is why our thoughts and beliefs affect our body. So it's in working with both of them. That's why I call it being body wise, because you're wise enough to understand what's going on in the body to help adjust it, fix it, work with it, heal it. And then you can go back into the mind and start shifting beliefs they may not have known exist. Everyone always talks about limiting beliefs, and there's so many background pieces that we are unaware of. And it's then when the body's quiet, you get more of that self-awareness, and you get to even make more choices. And now I've been doing this for over a decade. And, at one point, my therapist was just like, I don't know what else to do for you. You're like the Olympian of anxiety. I think, here's a bunch of different med choices we can do. And I was like, I don't know that that's for me. I think that's a great option for lots of people, but I've been able to heal myself to the capacity that I sleep well and wake up happy and, go about my day and feel good and work out and get my work done and communicate with my children and have healthy relationships and play, which is so very important. And all of that because I got my body to feel safe enough, stressed, stress levels way down, so that I can heal and engage in my life in a different capacity, and at an even higher level, really step up into my own truths, my own authentic behaviors, choices, and decisions, perspectives, so that I can get to where, so I can really be living an authentically purposeful and enjoyable life. And that's my tale.
Okay. I think that's awesome. Um, your story, your story, and what came out of it. It's amazing to me because, in the same sense that you are discovering the aspects of the body and how it works, on this show, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And
Hmm.
just not just entrepreneurs that I speak with, but society as a whole. And you mentioned this. Everything is kind of based on mindset. Everything is have a money mindset. What the law of attraction, and there's so many people that I've spoken to on this podcast alone to where it's like, hey, start with the mind and the body will follow. And me listening to you is the opposite, which is very intriguing to me. And I'm sitting here as the host, but I'm almost can't ask questions because I'm taking it in. I'm taking
Yeah.
it in at the moment, right? So when you discovered, so now you have body wise, and you're discovering what makes you happy, and you've kind of honed in on it. So did you start studying from that, aspect, from that realization? Did you go into like a self-study type of, when you find something that's really interesting, like you go to picking up books and you go to watching different YouTube channels, and so did you go through that?
I did. I've done, I did all of the, like, tons of trainings and certifications, mindfulness, and all of these things to try to really understand, like, where does everything play together? Because just like you're saying, that mindset piece is huge. And in the space of law of attraction and mindset, oh, I have some juicy little tidbits for that too. So the cool thing that I think we all have the ability to access beyond just our physical body is our intuition. The tricky piece becomes being able to decipher information, emotions, body sensations, and thoughts from that intuitive kind of higher knowing. And the the very cool thing was, since I had worked with that spiritual counselor for many years, she really helped me hone in on listening to my intuition. And we all, again, have the capacity for these amazing divine insights into our own lives. And maybe that sounds bold, but we have the capacity to really hear from ourselves, from a higher self, the one that's removed from all of the kind of chaos that's around us right now, and listen to what is best for us. And where did Einstein get ideas, or Benjamin Franklin, and all these things? And what I think is a fun fact that I'd learned about them is they did a lot of walking, and a lot of really big time successful people, right? They talk about doing meditation and exercise, but walking and meditation are nervous system regulators. So if your nervous system and your body have become quiet, guess what? Your executive processor in your brain gets to go bonkers and really get creative. Or if you want to add a spiritual component to it, you have the capacity to connect with your intuition, or if you want to go higher than that, some level of higher consciousness. And so whatever aligns for you in that line. But bottom line, our executive processor can create some really amazing things, but it can't do that from a space of a body full of stress, because all it's doing is creating predictions of how to get away from feeling stress. So now you're
Okay.
not doing that.
Okay. So I want to interrupt you here to see if I am kind of grasping this.
Hmm.
So basically, what you are saying in is kind of being in a survivor's mode. Like if
Yes.
you're only surviving, you're not being creative. You can't really be creative.
Yes. So
But
I'll double down on that just to make it really clear. We have a
okay.
nervous system that's like an animal. that's like, how do I stay alive? What is survival? How do I get people to like me? And how do I get my food and water and hunt, right? So the people liking you part is the big one that we need to recognize, because we that's where most of our mm, I don't like saying this word, but I'll say it, like our programming comes from. And so that survival piece is built into our nervous system. So that's how what ends up creating a lot of our choices that we make as we grow up, and also what we decide is stressful or what is not stressful. But that's all a very primal reflex. So I just wanted to really to separate that. We kind of have this primal lizard body. I generally call it a zebra body because we're mammals, and then but attached to this high level supercomputer, which is why there's kind of a trouble.
There's trouble. Yeah. Sometimes we get viruses and short circuit. And right, I get it. The other part I wanted to speak on was you said, I think Benjamin Franklin, and to get ideas, they did a lot of walking. Am I correct?
Hmm.
That just resonated with me because I have it's I view it as being, I'd be like, what's going on? But when I really get creative in my mind, I have an upstairs, downstairs, two-story house, and I find myself walking up, down the stairs, around the kitchen. I find that, but I found it to be kind of odd, but I noticed that I do it, but that's in my most creative moments that I do that.
Hmm.
And what you just said resonated with me based on that alone.
Yeah, walking's a great nervous system. It regulator. We can walking in nature even better. Nature is a huge place or um, environment for almost immediate nervous system regulation, if you feel safe, that is, depending on how you feel about being in nature. But it has, because we are nature. If we kind of think about our lives and what our body needs from a very like we could be living out on the fields, hunter and gatherer approach, it's much easier to start thinking about what our body would need to regulate. We would naturally be walking around all day. So in comparison to now, right, when everybody's all stressed out and feeling yucky, our bodies were designed to walk all day. We're bipedal. So that would be a natural way for our body to come back to a center and feel better. Walking in nature, also normal, but we are often, device centered or indoor centered, lack of sunlight, all those kinds of things. And all of the natural remedies that we would be exposed to in our kind of evolutionary early year dynamics are the things that our body still requires to feel calmer, and we are often not allowing ourselves to access it. And I love that you intuitively, so there, that movement that you were talking about is your intuitive, um, let's say, guidance, if you will, that already knows how to help you get more creative. Our bodies can tell us really how to do so many things, what we actually need in the moment. We're just not really trained to listen. We're very distracted with external information. But that was a great example of your body and your mind already know how to do a thing that help you promote, like get better creativity.
Is that also the fight or flight response? Is that an
Okay,
example of that?
so nervous system regulation. Um, let's go back to zebra. So the zebra thing is, imagine you're a zebra and you're kind of hanging out with all the other zebras down by the watering hole, and your body feels natural and relaxed. And I want to add some pieces to this: natural digestion, natural feelings about being with your fellow zebras, and just a general kind of sense of well-being in the body. All that means that most of your organs are working in the right way. Your heart is beating naturally, all of that. So it's called rest and digest. It's the ventral state. It's the open, welcoming state of your nervous system. So now you guys are all hanging out, and a lion comes, and obviously natural response would be the fight flight that you're referring to, the sympathetic response to keep you alive as this animal. um, and that's a really interesting space because and I want to add the extra too, there's fight, flight, freeze, right? That's that overwhelm state where you're like, I don't even know what to do right now. And there's actually fawn, which is often forgotten or not mentioned. And fawning means that fawning in this circumstance, would you be like, you try to go up to the lion, you're all, hey, let's be friends. What do you need me to, how could I make you happy kind of thing? So in real people world, that would be that people pleasing state that we often find ourselves in. So those are all states of 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 a sympathetic reaction. So fight, flight, freeze, I don't even know what to do, and fawn, try to make the problem like you.
I get it. I totally get it. I never heard the last. I've never heard the last two, but I've totally seen the last two. So yeah, yeah, it makes sense. Fawn and then freeze during the headlights.
Yeah, deer in the headlights, exactly. And if we think about, the way that I generally explain it, minus the fawning one, but again, for anybody that's, a recovering people pleaser like I am, fawn was like my best space, because anytime I felt uncomfortable, my first inclination, in dealing with people, not lions, was to try to make that person feel better so that I could feel better and safe around them. It's really, really common because we are people being raised by people. So we need to know how to make our parents happy at the baseline of it, right? How do I get my parents to feel calmer and safer? If I behave like this, I get to do, I feel that safety. That's that fawn place. But if we're going back to the fight, flight, freeze, I feel like it kind of runs through a sequence. Our first inclination might often be just to run away. So, we're going to run away from the lion. Then the second one, if we don't get away, we're going to fight the lion because now we have to. And when that space of fighting isn't working, and we've tried our two true approaches, we start to freeze. And we're like, now do we do, right? And that's that big overwhelm that so many people land in. That's procrastination. That's a lot of what I work with my clients on, is why do we procrastinate? Because our nervous system and our body is like, we don't know what to do. We can't do anything. It's all too much. So freeze and do nothing.
Okay, okay. Hold on. Let's let's put this in bold. Let's put this in bold letters. This is a lot of people's problems. I was going to get to this. I was going to ask you this. So I want to make sure that this is something that is in bold letters and discussed and pulled out from everything else. So let's speak procrastination.
Okay.
And after procrastination, just to give you a heads up, let's speak a little bit about perfectionism.
Oh yes, those are phenomenal. The two P's.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was going to pull
Okay.
those out, but I'm glad you spoke on it. So, okay.
Okay. So procrastination. Procrastination has a couple different facets to it. One, and mostly where the majority of us live these days, is in, I have so much to do, an endless amount of things to do, that I can't pick one. And it's so overwhelming to both my brain and my body that I can't do anything. You just freeze and you just stare at your to-do list. And then guess what? If you hold that place, so just so everybody gets this piece too, if you hold that space for so long, what often happens? You get really tired or sad and you need to go take a nap. That's actually kind of the last space of that nervous system thing. Like I ran from the lion, I fought the lion, that didn't pan out, and the nervous system's like, you know what? All we got left in our in our bucket is just play dead, see if that works, right? Because that's what lizards would do, or opossums, play dead. So, and that might help us stay alive. So that's kind of what happens to procrastinate in the space of procrastination. I am overwhelmed and I can't do anything, and so what, you end up doing nothing. And then you
Menopause.
feel bad about it. Yeah, because you're like, oh, I can't get anything done. That adds more stress. Now the nervous system's more dysregulated, and now you can do even less. So it's a really nasty cycle. That's where the mindset piece comes in, because if I can catch it with my knowing, my 5% really of control in my own life, um, I can actually address it and recognize, oh, wait, I know what's going on in my body. If I can go move my body for a minute, shake out some of this stress, regulate the nervous system, take a couple deep breaths, even take a 5-minute nap to kind of, it's like a reset. And I actually have a 5 minute reset that's not a nap. But if I can do that, if I can notice that this isn't about my to do list and I can notice that it's about my body, that's that body wise concept. I can do something about this and make real change. So I can get my body centered and quiet. And because of that, I can calm my mind. And now I can more strategically and openly look at what I need to do and figure out what's the most important thing to prioritize on the list. And when I have the win of finishing that, my body feels even safer, calmer, because we love wins. Oh man, our bodies love wins. And then when I have that win, I feel good. I feel more energy coming up. I can maybe do another thing. And maybe that win helps. So it's a momentum. It's overcoming that inertia of overwhelm in the nervous system that helps us move through our procrastination.
You know, with that being said, all of the gym guys that I follow, and just the older, um, the older crowd of men that's trying to teach the younger generation, the message is pretty much just move.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling depressed, just move. If going through something, just move. Get out, work out, walk, do something. That is their message. So, okay, I get it. I get where you're
Well,
coming from.
and one of the reasons that works is in stress, we have high cortisol. And if we don't move, once we've gotten into a stressful state, or many of us just live there, just as a heads up, many people's nervous systems live there because they think it's safer to stay stressed than it is to come down. When's the next lion coming? When's the next bear coming? We should just live in the stress state because that's safer to us to always be ready for the next thing that's going to go wrong. So that's where majority of people live right now. And that level of stress and that in the mind directs us to start making some really uh, less beneficial choices in our lives, which then adds to more stress. And so you get these stress cycles. But the movement piece is huge because it gets you back into your body and it helps burn off all these chemicals, the stress chemicals, fight and flight, like are dropping adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol into the body. And if we can start working it through us, then it dissipates and the body can calm down some more. So if we think about what our body, what fight and flight means, it means the nervous system dumps a bunch of energy into our shoulders, into our arms, and into our legs and into our, hips. That's why so many people have shoulders and tight hips because we don't work it off. The chemicals don't move out of our body. We get stiff and tight there because the body was intended to move in these circumstances. And when a lot of people feel stressed, they just sit. So you're right. All of those, the men that you listen to, are correct for so many different reasons, on top of the fact that obviously health and well-being is it's important for us to move and exercise. But that's why. And we have so much energy dropped into those two locations that energy is also in those moments of fight and flight pulled out of the brain, because you don't really need to think when you're fighting a bear. You just need, or a lion, you just need to fight. And it's pulled out of the stomach. So think about everybody who has IBS problems, stomach issues, digestion issues, because that energy and resources are pulled from all the major organs to go into shoulders and legs to run or fight, and obviously heart and stuff and lungs. But all of the other organs, they're like, well, if you don't win in this zebra versus lion fight, you aren't, it doesn't matter how smart you are,
No
or
matter
if
what.
you processed your food last night from last night's meal, right? So it makes sense. It's so evolutionarily biologically based, and we keep trying to apply like current human thought process to it. Well, I'll just think better about it. I'm going to be real positive, or I'm going to be real disciplined. And I'm just like, okay, well, see how that works out
Yeah,
for you.
and you just said something profound. Everyone talks mindset, but when you're in a situation, you may not have time to think. Even if you're trained for it, once it come your way, it's a fight or flight situation. Whatever it is what you decide at that moment. Your
Exactly.
body is more prepared than your mind is. at that
Correct.
moment.
And whatever your kind of background beliefs are that you've adopted about a current situation, you're not using your logical mind, you're using your reactive mind. So that's a big cause of so many of our issues. Even let's take a workplace, for example. People are under high amounts of stress. You've got external, even out of the workplace stress and societal stress, and everybody. It's such, it's collective stress right now. So it doesn't take much. So you're not, we're moving through a lot of our day just on autopilot.
Yeah.
And because we don't have that adaptive reservoir to think more logically, to take a moment to pause and think about what we want to do next, because the body is all action, because it's like we have to be taking action all the time because that it thinks it's safer to do that. And that is why we end up saying things we don't want to say, reacting in ways we don't want to react. That's the people getting in fights when they're driving because they're holding it in over here, the stress is in their body, and now someone cuts them off and they lose it. Well, I don't, they probably wouldn't have cared that much, but we're in this high level of stress, high level of reaction, not too much thinking, not too much logic, and we're kind of pointing fingers at each other going like, well, you shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, well, we don't know how to take care of ourselves in a way to give us more space to make more logical, thoughtful, kind, compassionate decisions.
These findings, it's so, like you say, it's so simple because it's so primitive, but no
Yes.
one has given you the direction to say you're going to feel it in your body. You're going to know something is wrong because that's your nervous system telling you that.
Mm-hmm.
I was I'm going to give you this example, and
Great.
I don't know what an anxiety attack is. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what a panic attack is. What I do know is I was driving from St. Louis, Missouri to Fort Worth, where I stay, and I
Mm-hmm.
was in Dallas last Saturday. And it was nighttime in Dallas in traffic. It just came to my attention that I probably have not driven at night since COVID. Like, so it's been like, and I was a person that, I stayed in this area, so I drove at night all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I hit the Dallas traffic, when you're telling me about the shoulders and tensing up, and I said I didn't know, I couldn't let my wife know because I couldn't let her know that but I was doing like 60 miles per hour. And if you're in Dallas traffic, people are shooting past you. And I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I knew it was something that was not right. And that's
Mm-hmm.
I don't I believe it was, and so it had something to do with anxiety, but my body was definitely telling me. So finally, we had to make a stop between Dallas and Fort Worth, and I told her, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna need you to drive. My body telling me something is wrong. I, I can't do it. Like I haven't driven at night. I haven't driven at night in so long, and that was just I think my body telling me, hey, so I don't that was a circumstance to where I understood that my body was telling me that something is wrong.
That's huge. That's so huge. And do you know how many people won't do that? That's the other thing. We hide it because we're either embarrassed, or hide it because we don't think it should be happening. And our body's giving us this phenomenal amount of data to help us stay, healthy, to check it or to get curious at minimum. And
Right.
we are pretty much taught to try to ignore it and push it aside. How do I get rid of this fastest? Or I'm just not going to pay attention to it. And then now we get into like then things happen. So huge
Yeah.
accolades to you for listening and pulling over, and then get curious about why it happened. Were you already stressed? Were you already tired? All those kinds of things that build in the body. And so then that circumstance is just providing like too much extra data for
Right.
your body and nervous system to process, especially at nighttime. And our eyes are one of the only things that that are directly, I call it the nervous system hub, like in the brain, but are directly connected to that nervous system hub. Everything else is going through a lot of channels to get there. So when our eyes become overwhelmed by night traffic or the lights or whatever, too, that can be a pretty quick, whoa, too much. So
Mm,
thank you
got
for
it.
sharing.
Definitely. And I want to say this because I know you work with women, but men have that issue. And it's
Mhm.
pride, it's ego. And, when the body is saying something, we're just going to push through it. That's just what a man does, and that's what men are taught. That's actually what men are, taught to do at a young age. And it's
Mhm.
it's it's unfortunate because it leads to a lot of health issues,
Yes.
you know, and not recognizing the signs and the signals and what your body is telling you. So,
Yes.
I've witnessed that as well. So,
I do
I,
actually also. Oh, sorry. My bad. Continue.
no,
Sorry.
I just want to say I thank you for your work because um, because it's needed.
Thank you.
It's definitely needed.
I actually also do work with men too. All of the marketing things they say, pick a gender, and I'm like, I'd prefer to work. I love having male clients just as much as female clients. So,
Okay.
just in case you're curious about that, but you're right. And actually, when I started this business, I was only going to work with men because I feel so empathetic and compassionate to the fact that like men are pretty much driven to be like, you have to be machines, like you have to be robots, crank it out, don't feel anything, don't show anything, don't be tired, don't be weak, don't be sad, just get the job done, you have a job to do, and that's your thing. And you're right to pull up the fact that that creates huge amounts of disease when we internalize our emotions. For one, there's a lot of science coming out that our bodies, it starts manifesting as inflammation, and inflammation starts turning into disease. We definitely hold our stress cycles in, and there's, as I said, that science speaks to even neuropeptides that are deposited in the body when we don't finish a an emotional cycle. And that means that it starts to build up. And so I have deep compassion for men because, you know, societally driven to just smile and keep pushing through. Or if you have to feel an emotion, be angry about something. And that's great. At least you get to output some emotions and some of that stress and tension. But it's really challenging. And there's a huge stigma around also getting help from men, which is why I had originally thought that that would be mostly the people that I worked with, because I just trying to break down that stigma though. And I had met with a bunch of my friends and did a bunch of interviews with them before really branching out into my practice. And most of them, even they couldn't articulate why they wouldn't go try to get support. They're just like, oh, I look on YouTube, or, oh, I can talk to my wife. And I'm like, that's great. So grateful that you're doing something to support yourself. But to be able to find outside resources and also an alternative to just mindset discipline is essential, really. So maybe someone will watch this and they'll go look up some YouTube videos or something
Yeah.
after.
Yes. It's you know what? It's safer than you ever seen the movie Fight Club with Brad Pitt?
Yes.
So that's what men be looking for therapy. So it's
Yeah.
it's safer than Fight Club. Go talk to Nicole, and
Yeah.
you know,
I'm a little nicer than that, so that's cool. Or, I get it. If you don't want to talk to someone, it's a huge obstacle to try. The vulnerability that's involved with saying that you want to get support from something is huge. And that in and of itself is a nervous system dysregulator. So it makes sense, so much sense. Why? So at minimum, go for a walk and then try to meditate and focus on your breath for 5 minutes. Or you can give me a call and I'll talk to you. We won't even look at each other. We can talk on a phone the old fashioned way for 15 minutes or
the
something.
old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? In this, I have to let you go. But in this 45-minute conversation, we haven't even brought up social media,
Oh
you
man.
know, and that's a whole entire another 45 minutes, I'm sure.
Yes.
So
Yes. Although we
we'll
curate a social media that actually serves us. That would be my one plug. We can definitely, if we choose to, use social media to lift us up, to give us resources, ideas, healing, and at least some joy, right? Look at baby ducks or something, and that'll make you feel better. And as opposed to just letting social media itself, Facebook, Instagram, dictate what's tossed in front of you. So we do have more power than we think in that space, and we can use it as a resource for well-being as opposed to something that drives us deeper into a hole. You did say you wanted to do perfectionism, and so I'll plug that super fast. Perfectionism is the zebra trying to make another zebra like it so it can stay in the herd and not get picked off by a lion. So perfectionism is, if I can prove to you my value by being perfect, you'll like me and I won't get abandoned and picked off by the lion. That's perfectionism.
okay. I need to sit with that. I have to let you go now because that's the part that I'm just going to kind of sit with.
Well, maybe we'll
And
meet again. I would be happy to come back on and talk about perfectionism. My entire purpose in this life is to help people and to help us come back to, again, like you mentioned earlier, that primitive understanding of our body, because from there, that shifts, that, coming back to your words, law of attraction. If the frequency of my body and my mind is that of solving problems and finding solutions and creativity and gaining things to come towards me, then my body has to be in a place of reception to it. But if
right,
I'm so stressed out and closed down, things just bounce off me. I can't even see them because all that all of that insight, my eyes or my brain is only looking for ways to stay alive, not ways to grow, to excel, to solution. I'm just trying to avoid problems. It's a different mindset, but that's a
right.
body based problem.
Jesus, that is, man, you painted it in such a different way that I'm used to hearing it, right? So it's so in zebra format, it would be someone that is not even, you know, getting in the game. They don't want to go graze. They're so afraid.
Yeah.
Um,
It's what your mind is able to focus on. And I think people, there's so many, we are all talking about the same thing, religiously, spiritually, academically, it's all the same thing. Are we, fear versus love, although I offer that it's fear versus authenticity. But no matter what we're talking about, it's am I open and receptive to answers coming to me, and my brain has the capacity to see it because I'm open to new things, or am I just living in a fear state trying to stay alive, and all I can see are ways to stay alive? Like, we can't do both,
right,
really.
right,
And that's the dilemma. So that's why, if the body is quiet and calm and you've created a trust situation for it, I would offer even a self-love. The more I love myself, the less afraid I am, because I know I can take care of myself. I know I can be authentically me. I know I don't have to be someone else for someone else. And that way I feel safe and I feel calmer. And in that authenticity and in that calm, your options are limitless. I mean, that's why people talk about manifesting, because to some degree you've just opened up a piece of your insane technological mind to see everything work, like Keanu Reeves in that movie that I can't think of right now. Right, when
the
it's like
Matrix,
yeah,
the
when he can
Matrix.
see all the data points, it's like, because he's not really having to be super primitive human, he can see everything how it's working and start manipulating it, if you will, or manifesting it to do what he needs to do. We all can do that into some capacity, but it comes first from a body that's quiet enough to be receptive.
I want to add to that. Also, and I say this a lot in my interviews, also, he had a blank slate to work with. Do you remember
Hmm.
that? Like the entire room was just blank. And
Yes.
he could do what he wanted to within that room and make it what he wanted to make it to be. And that point right there is where I say, same as you cannot paint a portrait, not a beautiful portrait, in survival mode.
Correct.
You at least need a blank slate to start with.
Right? Otherwise, your room or your blank slate would just be filled with like, I don't know, bars and like places to hide and all of that, right? I mean, that's a beautiful way to explain it. And I would offer that in addition to that, that's kind of how we're born, right? Tabula rasa is this idea that we come in completely blank and open to limitless possibilities. And yet, through our childhood, without blame to anyone that raises us, I mean, literally zero, because every human is humaning to the best that they can. So, but we are all imperfect and we all affect each other in different ways and we all interpret life in different ways. And if we don't challenge these adaptive beliefs or our adaptive body reactions, we can't grow, we can't change, and we can't transform. We just kind of keep repeating Groundhog Day every day. So when we start getting curious, why is my body feeling that? And what might that mean? Why is this my first thought? That seems like it's not really that's not really what I believe anymore. I can shift that to something else. I can see this from a different perspective. That self-awareness, which comes from being body wise and also just, and that's where the mindset piece comes in. Our ability to transform our lives is exponential.
Wow. Nicole, anyone that's listening to this, with everything that you just shared with us, how do they contact you if they want to have a 15-minute call, or if they want to be a part of your program?
I have a website and I have a little service button for a 15-minute chat. And, I have all these different freebies and giveaways and stuff, but I will offer that for all of us, talking to a person who can, in a very short period of time, that's where my ability to really hear, to listen to prosody of voice and all these things, my ability to give really good ideas and suggestions for next steps, really, it doesn't take that much longer than 15 minutes. And that's the fastest way to see a real change, or even to know if doing something that was body related, nervous system related would be beneficial. And you could just do that through my website. But I really encourage people to do that. Like I said, my job, yes, I love business. Yes, we all love to be in success, right? We love winning. But I would offer that at the root of all of the work I'm doing is just to spread the word and to really help people understand how they can just work with their physical body that they have access to every day and just make immediate changes for their lives in any capacity, relationships, in work, in health and well-being, weight loss, all of that. It all comes back to your relationship with your body.
I want to thank you. I really want to truly thank you for coming on today. You I'm going to say you was contradictory to a lot of the guests that I've had on here, which I love, right? Because some teach mindset. But here's the thing about it, and what I just realized is, if you don't know, you can't use that piece of your mindset. So I see where you were saying that is only a limited space, because if you don't recognize that or even know about it and you're not educated in it, how could you possibly utilize it in your mindset? But your
Yes.
body is going to tell you the real true story. Your
Yes.
body is going to let you know.
Yeah, it's kind of the boss. It's kind of the historical records keeper of your life, and truly the most intuitive piece of you. That and we could go down a million different holes of like emotion and stuff. So mindset really is important if you can get the body quiet enough that your mindset is effective and accurate, and not from that place of fear or pushing or trying to iterate yourself so many times that you're not authentically you. And that's why we stumble and fall, because we're not being authentically us, which we can't be unless our body is nice and calm and relaxed.
Unless you're relaxed, then you can open up your mind.
Hmm.
Um, man, with everything that you brought here with us today, and of course, we are going to speak again. I just want to let you know that here and now.
I love
Right?
it. I love it.
This was awesome, and we have other things that we can dive into. So
Great.
for now, for the guests out there, I am going to say bye to Nicole. I'm going to say bye to the guests. I want to thank her so much. I hope all of the listeners out there really got something, got jewels and gems from this conversation. And until the next time, we will speak later.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, Nicole.
Thank you.
From mastering the art of saving to harnessing the power of investments, we cover it all. But it's not just about the money. It's about cultivating a millionaire mindset that propels you towards success in every aspect of your life. Join our community of ambitious go-getters and discover the secrets to becoming a millionaire by morning. Subscribe now to Millionaire by Morning on your favorite podcast platform. And let's make your financial dreams a reality. Millionaire by Morning, where money mindset, motivation, and mastery meet. Subscribe today and unlock your path to prosperity.